Canada in 2020. Her current research interests include geospatial data analysis, event detection using geospatial media data, and urban dynamics and smart city. Dr. Xu was a recipient of Canadian Association of Geographers annual Division Best Paper Award in 2018, Beijing Overseas Talents 2020, and China Scholar Council International Cooperation Funding in 2020. Now, please join me in welcome Dr. Xu. Welcome.
Oh, thanks, Jinbo. Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, and evening. I'm Shishuo Xu from Beijing University of Civil Engineering and Architecture. Thanks BOCA and ISPRS for organizing this virtual summer school. It's my pleasure to be here to be together with you to enjoy this event. Today, I would like to share some recent studies concerning the sensing urban dynamics with big data. So first, I will have a brief introduction to myself. And since our topic today is concerning the urban dynamics and big data, so I will mainly focus on introducing the urban dynamics that occurs in smart cities. And for the big data, since the geosocial media data is a typical type of big data, so I will place focus on the geosocial media data. And finally, I will introduce my own researches related to the event detection using geosocial media data. I got my PhD degree from the Ryerson University in 2020. And after then, I joined the School of Geomatics and Urban Spatial Informatics of BOCA through the Beijing Overseas Talents Youth Program. My research interest mainly focus on the geosocial media data analysis, detecting events from the geosocial media applications, and sensing the urban dynamics in smart cities. So to begin with, what is smart city and what is the urban dynamics in smart cities? Are there any features or components that make a city smart? So different institutions may have different definition for the smart city. Here I mainly introduce 3 of them. The first one is from the IBM company. It defined the smart city as an interconnected system of systems, and it mainly composes a smart city from 3 perspectives, namely the infrastructure, operations, and people. And based on them, they wanted to make a city smarter for all. Another one is from the MIT. Similarly, they define the smart city as systems of systems, and especially there are emerging opportunities to the digital systems and the intelligent responsiveness. And they aims to optimize the urban system from each level of system integration. For example, from that of individual devices and applications to that of buildings, and finally to that of complete cities and urban regions. The other one is from another research institute, and they define a smart city from the use of smart computing technologies. They think such smart computing technologies are able to make a city to be more smart based on the critical infrastructure components and services. Some students may get lost here due to the long description of the definition or concept of smart cities. And in the following, we may have a look at a short video to have a better understanding of what is smart city and their components. From that short video, we can see the smart city covers a variety of terms that are related to our daily life. But actually, it mainly based on such a smart city model, which mainly includes the three components. The first one is about the economic. For this economic component, it mainly includes the public administration and economic actors, such as the cloud computing or the mobility, security, or business intelligence, and so on. And the second one is about the environmental component. For the environmental terms that we are very familiar with, such as the water, air, and energy that we use every day. So for this component, it covers two perspectives. The first one is about the resources, and the second one is about the managerial infrastructures. The third part is called the social component, and our human or our citizens are the main actors for this component. Based on these three components, the smart city is an integration of systems that are enabled through information and communication technologies. And the three components have to be keep balance in order to enable a sustainable development of our smart city. And based on that smart city model, a number of urban systems were built to enable our better life. In those systems, citizens, technicians, and the government are the main components or the main actors to compose such systems. And the urban pulse, urban board, and urban dynamics are three examples to show what urban systems look like in smart cities. The first one is about the urban pulse, and we can have an understanding of it through a short video. From this video, we can see the Urban Pulse is like a mobile phone application that we can install it on our mobile phones. And through this app, we can access the urban information in real time. For example, citizens can know what where the events occur, or have understand of the transportation information in the urban system, and they can know where they can put their waste, or how can they sort the waste, or other terms about the urban applications. So this application put the citizens at the heart of urban experience. And the users or the citizens plays an active role in their own comfort, and they can help the city to operate more efficiently and protect their environment. The second one is about a dashboard that can show the real-time information that happens in our cities. Yeah, we can stop here and we can see the urban board is like a dashboard. Then it can show everything or show all the things that are included in the smart cities. So it brings together the technical information and the social network flows with one goal in order to put the performance of urban services into perspective and link them to residents' impressions in 4 areas, such as the mobility, security, cleanliness, and the environment. So the data for this dashboard is always supplied by the government or the suppliers of urban services. And the last one is called the Urbanics. Here, it mainly shows the solutions that leverage the digital revolution to modernize urban services. Different from the urban board, the previous urban board, this Urbanics not only allows for the visualization, but also it allows for the data analysis. And finally, it can return the answers or the solutions to the urban system, to the urban problems. For example, it can return the events detected in real time, or enhance service performance and manage crises more efficiently, and act as a medium for exchanging increasingly precise information about urban services with the local government authority or citizens. In summary, a smart city is a solution that can keep a city's attractiveness and supports its positive development and ensure an efficient management of all urban resources. So the smart city usually hosts the following 4 features. The first one is the services to citizens. It means a city aims to deliver better services to our citizens and to give them real-time information that can help them to make the good choices and in order to contribute or make contribution to our everyday problems in a city. The second one is about the citizen participation. Because people live more and more in cities, they are concerned by all the changes that may take place around them. So they wanted to participate, such as they wanted to participate in the debates to be considered and to be listened by the decision makers. And they also wanted to be the actors of changes as much as decision makers and businessmen. The information and communication technologies enable access to information, and they also enable the citizens to play a new and more active role in our urban system. The third one is the open government, transparency, and confidence. Because of the need to pay attention to the way citizens wanted to interact with the city administration, the open government and transparency are required to maintain or increase the confidence of our citizens. And the last one is concerted, efficient, and sustainable management. So the quality of life and sustainable management and development are important values and goals for a smart city. The development of a smart city is not possible if there are no strong environmental components. Another term about our presentation today is about the big data. And as I mentioned in the beginning, the geosocial media data is a typical type of big data. So in the following, I will mainly introduce the geosocial media data as an example. With the development of our mobile devices and the internet technologies, the social media applications or social media platforms were more and more popular since around from the 2000. And we can access multiple social media platforms from our mobile phone, such as the Instagram, Foursquare, Weibo, WeChat, Facebook, and so on. So to be specific, the Facebook is very popular worldwide, and it allows the users to post like text, images, videos, or live streams and stories, and it holds a large amount of users. But we may have some limitation in Asia or in some part of the Asia countries. The other one is YouTube. Yeah, many students may be very familiar with this platform. Here is like a video sharing platform, and users can view, like, comment, and share various videos on this platform. And similarly, it also holds a very large amount of users. Twitter is it's very similar to our Chinese Weibo, and you can post news, entertainment, or sports, politics, anything or any terms on this platform, and it allows for the real-time post or real-time information posted on this application. Yeah, the Weibo is very similar to the Twitter, and there are. It means every user is open to other users, and you can access any user's account or any user's posts through searching their username or through searching a certain keywords here. Another one is WeChat. Yeah, we may use the WeChat every day or every minute. So the WeChat is very popular for messaging, calling, shopping, transferring money, or you can also book taxis through the WeChat. It's also called the all-in-one platform. The other one is the Instagram. Instagram is like a photo sharing platform, and you can post photos, videos, stories, and live videos here. LinkedIn, if you are looking for a job and you wanted to make yourself sounded by others, you may post your resume or CVs on this platform. So the LinkedIn, here you can share content and you can build network with others. And you can post your resumes and job search sites or jobs on this site. Another one is QQ. You can QQ is very popular in the previous years, and it's also an all-in-one platform, and you can play online games, shopping online, blogging, making payment, and so on. It's also like you can transferring files or you can send messages through this application. The TikTok is like a English version or international version for the Douyin in China. It's a rising musical video social network, and it's very popular among the young generations. So all in all, we have explained a number of examples of social media applications. But here, the difference mainly reveal the geo. Geo, it means the geolocation or geo coordinates. So when you are using the social media applications, you may receive a message that remind you if your location is allowed or if your location is not allowed. So if you turned on your GPS device or you make your location allowed, the platform or the application can access your location or your coordinates. So if the location information or the coordinates information were collected, we call such data geosocial media data. So the main difference is that such type of data has a spatial information, like a pair of coordinates or location name or place name. If we access data through such social media platforms, most of the time they are free because they usually provide APIs. We call them application interfaces. They are free, and you can access data through such APIs, and you can also access or collect the real-time data. Such data is very multiple types of information, including the text, image, video, or live stories, and so on. So such type of data compose the geosocial media data. And for the researches or for the further analysis, we mainly focused on their text message or their image information or video information. Here we summarize them from 3 perspectives, namely the geotagged. Geotagged is the same as we just explained, like the coordinates or the location or the place names. So we call them spatial information. And the text, if you post a text message or you post like a live story and you may add some hashtags. So such text information, we may conduct further semantic analysis. And also, when you post a message or post a video, it's usually tagged with a time or timestamp. Yeah, here the timestamp mainly refers to the temporal information. By integrating the spatial, semantic, and the temporal information, we can conduct the geosocial media-based researches, for example, to measure or sense the urban dynamics. Yeah. From this picture, we can see the urban dynamics that occur in smart cities covers a variety of aspects. For example, they can, based on sensing the urban dynamics, we can know that the water quality affect tourism, or where do people like to shop, how do people perceive spatial segregation, or which parks and green spaces are most popular. Yeah, so such researches or such applications can help us answer many questions that we are very concerned or we are very care about. So the first one is about the environmental terms. And the word or the channel mainly aims at to build a sustainable country or sustainable environment. So the environment sustainability enable the measurement of green spaces popularity and visitation drivers across city, regional, and international. It also supports the fine tuning of climate resiliency planning and the disaster response models and interventions. Here we can see some examples. The first one is using the Twitter and Flickr data to develop rapid indicators for park access and visitation in New York City of US. From this picture, we can see the gray colors and the green colors. For the gray one, we can see the light gray and the dark gray. And the dark gray means the population density is high here. And for the light gray, it means the population density is low. The green color represents the parks. So we can see from this buffer or from the light blue area, we can see the people live near the parks have an access to easy access to the visitation to those parks. And the parks are located near it's mainly near or have a correlation with the people locate or the population density. Here we can analyze such correlation by integrating the Twitter and Flickr data. Yeah, Flickr is like a photo sharing platform, and you can share your photos by tagging like the hashtags with it. Another example to measure the climate change and the disaster risk. And the different colors from the blue to red represent the temperature from low to high. And we can see the left one is without the Twitter data, and the right one is with the Twitter data analysis. And we can see the black point here in the 6 figures represent the tweets or the Twitter post here. And we can see if the tweets were posted with a cluster, or they are posted in a group here, it usually corresponds to a higher temperature. In other words, we can measure the temperature by exploring the density or the pattern of Twitter posting here. The other one is measuring the Weibo posting patterns. And here the complex network represents the different users, and they are connected if they are talking the similar keywords related to the climate changes. For example, we can see the red one, CCTV, and the other one, the other usernames. If they are talking the more similar keywords they are talking about, the stronger lines they are connected, and such complex network were built by or based on the Weibo data. Another one is about the disaster, earthquake, and we may know if a disaster occurs. Some people may or have an intention to post the related messages on social media platforms. And here is an example after an earthquake occurs. People may post about the earthquakes, such as the earthquake is serious or not. And we can see the red one. The red one means here is a hot pot for the Twitter posting. This hot pot means the earthquake may be the most serious here, because most people, or there are a large number of people, post the earthquake related tweets, and they can be an indicator to measuring the seriousness of earthquakes. Another example about the disaster is the wildfire, and and the red ones is about the frequency of wildfire happening, and we can see it almost aligned with the Twitter post. The green one represents the Twitter posts. We can see they are almost aligned. For the rainstorms, they hold a similar pattern, and we can do like a buffer analysis, and we can know the area of a rainstorm effect. And from the distribution of the tweets, they are represented in the blue point here. And from the distribution of the blue points, we can know where the rainstorm is large or where the rainstorm is not serious. And we can also analyze the text messages, the tweets content. From the text or text messages, we can know the trend or the evolution of such disasters, and we can do further analysis from the thematic perspective. For example, we can do the short text summarization to know what happened here. And we can also do the topic analysis for the text analysis, for the text messages, to know what is happening everywhere and every time. Another application is about the public health. Yeah, public health. We may have a focus in recent years since 2020 about the COVID-19. Yeah, it's a very serious public health problem. So based on such researches, it can reveal how people feel, move, and make choices in space. And it throws light on how the built environment affects healthy food choices and physical activity. It can also illustrate where the highest incidence of depression, like the sentiment analysis and alcohol abuse among the urban population is. The first one is about the distribution of healthy and unhealthy food in the United States. And we can explore the healthy food and the unhealthy food from the Twitter data. And we can also do the spatial analysis to explore their distribution patterns. Another one is about the food choices. Yeah, the food choices, here the result shows if there are a concentration of the green retailers distribute very dense here. So people may have more choices to the healthy food. If the green retailers are very, is not dense or they don't have a cluster here, people may have more choices to the unhealthy food. Yeah, we can also make a prediction about the fat rates or obesity rates by exploring the Twitter posts. And here is a very interesting research. It assumes the emergency visits, the number of emergency visits have a correlation with the alcohol-related traits. It means if there are more alcohol-related traits posted here, it may indicate a higher rate of emergency visits. Yeah, they almost hold a positive correlation between them. We can also analyze the sentiment, the user sentiment to the public health problems. Yeah, they can. Due to the limited time, I may go through the next examples quickly, and you can also analyze their expression feelings to the clinical depression using the Twitter data and uncover the geographies of happiness scores based on the Twitter. You can also explore the physical activity patterns of mothers of primary school-aged children. Another one is about the social equity. The social equities can help us uncover how boundaries of social and spatial segregation and socially constructed. And here we can know the social and the spatial division between the East and the West neighborhoods in the United States. Yeah, it means we may have the boundaries that are defined by the government, but actually the social media data, especially the geosocial media data, have the ability to provide the access to mine the boundaries of our it can mine the boundaries and make a comparison with the boundaries that are defined by the government. It can also map the spatial distribution of different ethnic groups and can make prediction for the neighborhood deprivation in using the Foursquare photos. The human mobility, because we move every day, we move by bikes, by taxis, by buses, or by trailways, and so on. So the mobility that occurs in the smart cities can reveal users' home locations and can help distinguish the users who are locals from those who are tourists. And it can support the real-time production, revision, and update the city road maps. Based on exploring the urban mobility patterns, we can know where are the workplaces and where are their shopping places and where are their homes. It can also investigate how the way transit agencies communicate about public transit. And such result can provide support or provide a reference for the future infrastructure investment. It can also abstract cloud mobility patterns and determine how they shape different functional zones at different scales. And in the international scale or from the worldwide perspective, we can also visualize their mobility patterns using the Twitter data or using the geosocial media data. And we can also use the photos or the images based on the image analysis methods to visualize or capture the mobility patterns. Another one is about the economic development. It can identify the popular urban attractions, public plazas, and restaurants. And from the social media posts, like the text messages or the images or the videos, we can identify the most successful urban plazas in different countries and access where tourists are and what attractions and events they found appealing and talk most about. We can also analyze the users' reviews to identify popular restaurants or popular destinations. And we can also analyze the shopping flows using the Twitter data. But in the previous introduction, we introduced a number of achievements the geosocial media data can obtain, but there are still some challenges that the social media data meet. The first one is about the population, because especially the amount of users. Because some social media sites are not universal. For example, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, we have limitations in some part of Asia countries, so they can't provide a universal population or universal users. Another one is about the location. The location is mainly concerning the privacy terms, because some users wanted to share their locations with their friends or with others, but some users may want to protect their privacy and turn off the GPS devices on their mobile phones. So in such case, the location information cannot be collected or cannot be obtained if the GPS device are turned off. Another one is about the sentiment analysis, because people may hold different opinions towards different events or different things. So the majority of them are as neutral. Such sentiment may handle the abstraction of positive or negative sentiments towards an event. Another challenge is regarding the time information. The time information cause the trend. Some social trends are related to one-off events, and some people wanted to post the event related information after the event ends or after the event finishes. So such information can be not timely or not in a real-time manner. And another one is about the ethics. Yeah, it's also related to the privacy issues. And for analyzing the geosocial media data, it also requires the data analysis methods. But as the machine learning or deep learning or AI technologies develops, such data analysis may be improved. In the last 10 minutes, I will quickly introduce my own researches about detecting the spatial temporal events using the Twitter data. Yeah, we may experience events every time and everywhere in our daily life. So the events mainly refers to the interactive human movements here, and from such mobility or movement patterns, the abnormal patterns emerge in a small area during a limited time, and they can be classified into two types. The first type can be abrupt patterns events, and the other type events is about the concentration of similar posts. And for the first type, I will take the social events as an example, and for the second type, I will take traffic events for the example. For the social event, I used the Twitter data, and here is an example showing what the Twitter data looks like. It mainly includes a user ID and their location information, like a pair of coordinates, longitude and latitude, and timestamp, time information, and the text messages. Yeah, and in the following, I mainly analyze the text messages to detect the social events and the traffic events. And we know for an event, the main factors or the main components of an event is about where the event occur, when, and what. So it corresponds to the location, time, and content. And the location of the event we can get from the coordinates. And for the time, we can transfer the time information here to the local time. And the main analysis or the main task is to summarize the text information to obtain the event content. So here I used a topic model analysis methods. Yeah, here. I analyze the event content using a topic model. So the topic here, it mainly includes topic and word. And for each topic, we can see different words to represent such topic. For example, we can see the topic 92, and here from the 5 keywords, we can know is about a TIFF, or the TIFF is a Toronto Film events. So from the keywords, we can know a TIFF event occurs here. It reveals the results. Is actually to the TIFF events. Another one is from the traffic event detection. For the traffic event detection, we first made an assumption. We assume that an actual traffic event occurs if a group of traffic-related tweets are found spatial-temporally concentrated. And based on such assumption, similarly, we mined the location, time, and the content of the traffic events from the Twitter data. Here, the event content, I use a different approach. It's called the tesseract. Yeah, here is a visualization of the detected traffic events from using the Twitter data. And from the content analysis, we can see, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 pieces of Twitter messages, and based on the short text summarization method, we can get the keywords. And from the keywords, we can see here is a traffic accident. Yeah, because straight car hit a bus. So here is a traffic accident occurs. Yeah, so from my case study or from my researches, I mainly introduce my 2 examples, including the social events and the traffic events. So here I may stop here, and my topic or the presentation today is about the sensing urban dynamics with the big data. And finally, I introduced 2 examples to show how the big data, especially the geosocial media data, were used in the to sense the urban dynamics in smart cities from an event detection perspective. So thank you for your listening.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Xu, and a wonderful lecture about the big data used in the smart city, resilient cities. And thank you again. And I see, is there someone wants to ask some questions? And it's a good opportunity for you to ask questions here. And if someone wants to ask question, can use the Q&A section here. Anyone? Yeah, Dr. Xu, can you see that there's one question here?
Oh yeah, I can see from the.
Yeah, in the Q&A.
So due to the time limitation, I may choose 1 or 2 to answer. So if you have further interest, you may contact me through the emails.
Okay, yeah, and anyone has other questions?
Yeah, for the lecture PDF, I can share part of them since the part concerning my own researches, there are some results that have not been published. So I can share the previous ones about the smart cities, and I can share them by replying the email that Mr. Huang-Xin sent us.
Okay, thank you again. And I think the time is limited. And thank you again for Dr. Xu. Thank you for your efforts and
Thank you.
thank you for a wonderful lecture. Thank you.
Thank you, Jingbo. Bye.
Thank you, Professor
Bye-bye.
Xu. See you
Thank
later.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Yeah, Mr. Huang.
Hello, Professor Ding.
Maybe we can give all the students 5 minutes to go to the bathroom or drink a coffee, something like that, right?
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
I think
okay, everybody,
everyone...
5 minutes break.
Okay.
And I see, yeah, Professor Emmanuel. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, good to see you, man.
Hello.
I think you already noticed that the baby is here also.
I know she's in the midst there, and nice to meet
Hi,
you.
nice to meet you, Emmanuel.
I've heard you have 5 minutes break, so I'll wait.
Yeah, we can chat a little bit.
Okay.
So how is the weather over there?
It's okay, cloudy, but okay.
So not so hot anymore.
No, not so hot anymore. How's the weather over there?
So
Okay.
so do you have air conditioning in your house?
No,
So it's a bummer.
It's hot. There's nothing you can do. You just have to.
That make you lecture more relevant more than ever, I think.
I'll try and make it relevant. I think I'll try and make it, but I think it is. It's going to be a conversation. It's going to be a chat. Hopefully, we'll all learn from it. So, yeah. And I'll send the slides over after the lecture.
Yeah, I just read you a short bio. I think you are working on impacts of biophilia on the indoor environment. It's quite an interesting topic.
You can see a lot of plants behind me.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
So you like vegetations indoors?
I do. I have a very big one sat here. I like a lot of vegetations indoors.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic actually.
We can talk more about it.
Yeah, maybe later.
Yeah, maybe later.
Actually, I am working on a paper with one of my former teachers, and we are working on a topic on agrivoltaic. How do you say? Agrivoltaic.
Okay, so solar voltaic, but with vegetation under.
Yeah. So I saw you also working on something related to photovoltaic.
Yes, I do quite a bit of that.
So it's more on the technical side or on the policy side?
More on the technical.
Okay.
Baby will tell you I don't do policies. I'm not policy person. I want the technical.
So engineer through and through.
Yes. But then I did the paper with one of our students, and we looked at the policy side and the frameworks that is needed to make sure that solar is developing.
Yeah.
In Barbados. So yeah, definitely.
So if you have any news or maybe new research materials relating to like policies or especially on land use policies or regulations regarding agrivoltaics, in UK or in Europe in general, maybe you can share with me sometime.
I'll do that. I'll do that. I have one of my colleagues, Eugene, is working with land use, so I'll definitely contact him for some material.
Yeah, there will be a meeting, I think, a conference actually. I think it's hosted by Oxford at the end of August. And if everything goes well with our paper, I think we will present it during that conference.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but unfortunately, I cannot be there.
Yeah, that's the challenge now, but hopefully soon. Hopefully
Yeah, hopefully.
we'll start again soon.
Yeah. So I think so. You're ready?
I'm ready. Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, everyone, welcome back. My name is Professor. My name is Professor Ding Rui from the School of Urban Economics and Management at BUCA. And I will be the moderator of the next 2 lectures of the day. First, please allow me to introduce our next lecturer, a very good friend of BUCA, Professor Emmanuel Abu Issa or Essa.
Yes, sir, that's fine.
Essa, okay. Yeah, Emmanuel is an associate professor in sustainable technologies in the School of Built Environment at the University of Reading. He has over 15 years experience with research involvement relating to energy conservation and management in building, optimizing and improving the use of photovoltaic systems, moisture transfer effects in buildings, and most recently, investigating the impacts of biophilia on the indoor environment quality. And he is also cooperating with researchers in many countries, including our universities, I believe. Today, Professor Emmanuel will give us the lecture titled "With Sustainability Across Different Scales, the Foundation of Resilient Cities." So please, Emmanuel.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'll try and share my screen, and then we'll start the session. Please feel free to interrupt me at any point in time.
Professor Emmanuel,
Yes.
I think it's better if you can come closer to your microphone.
Okay.
I think the volume is not so loud.
Let me see if I can increase the volume. I turn the volume down a bit. Any better?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit better. I think. Yeah.
Okay. So good afternoon to colleagues and participants in the Far East, in Beijing and other countries, and then for those in UK, good morning, and for those in the West, good morning as well, because it will be dawn. I hope you can see my screen. I hope you can see my screen. Okay.
Yes, very well.
So the topic we are dealing with is resilient cities, but looking at the sessions that have gone before me, we had several interesting aspects. Professor Green talked about the visionaries of sustainability. Professor Lee talked about resilient cities, dynamic systems, and the one I just joined, governance, and there were aspects about traffic light, and then other aspects as well. And this is very interesting because the entire conference is well developed around resilient cities. So thank you very much to Professor Ding Bebe and other colleagues who have organized this conference. It's interesting, it's relevant, and it's topical, and it's something that we are key on. I'm going to go through aspects which I acknowledge Professor Tim Dixon in Reading and Professor John Connerton, who have provided some current information and some previous information as well. So just before we start any aspects, I was talking to Professor Ding in the background, and he mentioned, because of everything going on, this is very important and topical for what we are doing. And I think Professor Ding could see that I was going to talk about these. So let's just journey through. Let's just journey through the month of July. Let's just journey through the month of July, the whole world, and let's look at what has happened. And I know China is still having the heat wave we had, but let's look through. So just the month of July, we could see in the Western world the heat wave causing so much fire. Spain, Greece, France, and other countries. And it's something that all of a sudden, almost everyone is experiencing. So this is one illustration. In California, just around the same time, the heat wave, which encapsulated all the world, caused several fires as well in California. And this is key because it's not intentional, but it's because of the dryness of the environment. The least spark causes fire to start. In areas where there is no woodlands, you can see how this heat wave has caused the soil to wither. There's nothing, there's no water at all. It's so dry. And this is somewhere in India. So we are journeying around the world. Now in the UK, when the heat wave came, most of the people decided to go to the beach, and you could see that there's not a lot of space because everybody wanted to be cool by the beach. They were on the beach, but they were not in the pool. Very, very interesting concept. But the heat wave caused so many other effects. Not just people by the beaches, but in the UK as well, the heat wave caused destruction. And the least element, and then there was fire, and because of the way we build, several houses were destroyed because of one fault in a single house. It's no different from China, where just after the ones last week, from what I read, there are several warnings about the second heat wave and how colleagues in China are being advised to deal with it, manage it, drink, keep themselves dehydrated, and be sustained. And this is something that is becoming a challenge. We've talked about America, we've talked about Europe, we've moved to China. What about Africa? It's no different. And I dare say it's even significantly worse in places. And if you look at Middle East and somewhere around Northern Africa, then you could see that we are somewhere here. Don't know if you can see the laser pen, but we are somewhere here. Let me try and use a pen instead. We are somewhere here. And it's being predicted that this is going to continue. This phenomenon is going to continue in the northern and Middle East, northern part of Africa, Middle East, and other countries around the Middle East. It's going to continue. And you could see predictions, if we get to live to see it, that this heat wave is going to increase significantly over time. Unfortunately, these are some of the things that we account for. Why am I explaining all these as a start of my lecture regarding sustainability factors and all that? And it's simply because climate change is evident. It is with us. We can't do anything about it now. We have to make sure that we protect what we have. But as climate change is evident, we cannot conserve or preserve our climate without appreciating or acknowledging that sustainability is key. Because sustainability is what's going to drive the future. And it is those two that provides resilience. Resilience is vital. Understanding climate change, ensuring sustainability, resilience is vital. And it is only then that our cities for the future will be resilient enough to cope with the conditions that are going on. So with this introduction in mind, our topic, or the general theme for the conference is resilient city. What exactly is resilience? From the lectures that you've had, I'm sure you know what resilience is, but I'll just pick on something from Pearson and Newton's book. And they've explained resilience as what is generally conserved, the ability of a system to absorb, the ability of a system to adapt, the ability of a system to cope with whatever it encounters. And you can see this image on the right, where you have, I'll just draw this image on the right, where you have other attributes, and this side shows the interaction between all the systems. Let's erase this one out. Okay, so resilience is that. Resilience is that ability to withstand it. We appreciate that. Resilience is operational based on sustainability. And if you look at all the elements around that image or that figure, they are attributes of sustainability. And we'll go into the details of sustainability in that sense. So we'll look at sustainability, we'll look at the components of it and take it. So for us to appreciate resilience, we have to appreciate and understand elements of sustainability and how to apply it and so on and so forth. So this session, concept of skill, urban skill indicators are key. Those are the key areas that we'll dwell on. But before that, we'll look at an overview, we'll look at concepts framework, and we'll look at sustainability and sustainability development. But remember, the concept of skill and urban skill indicators are the frame that we want to look at. But let's develop the storyline. Okay? The importance of governance will also come in at some point, but that will be towards the end. So looking back on history, sustainability started sometime in the 18th century, where timber was essential, but there were less forestation. So the concept was that preserve forestation so that there'll be more trees in future to be sustained to do whatever is required. Eventually, you cut down a tree, you grow one in its stead so that that tree will be replenishing what has been lost. So that element of replenishing became the essence of sustainability. And people always look back to that concept or that principle in the 18th century. So you don't just cut that tree and leave a fallow land, but then you cut that tree and replace it. The notion of that. But with sustainability, there's an identifiable population effect. So if the population is less, the demand for timber will be less. But with population growing, the demand for materials, the demand for resources, the demand for infrastructure is also increasing. And understanding how we sustain these elements and infrastructure is very key. So where sustainability started, our population growth becomes a key factor. As population grows, there is the demand on resources, there is the need to sustain these resources. And as evident, and as we can all see, energy prices have increased because of the less production of it, and so on and so forth. I'll not go too much into population, but as we grow, as the world expands, that becomes key. Now, as the world expands, most people want to live in cities, and the expansion of cities, urbanization is becoming greater and greater and greater, with less people staying in rural areas, So you can see that the concepts of urban development is just on the rise. There's more development. And with time, most people are going to live in cities instead of the rural area. Okay, so if you look at projections for 2030, then there is a growing concern about where the building stock is going to be. The built environment is predominantly associated with buildings, and our colleague who gave the previous presentation talked about traffic, transport, and that also kicks in now. the entire city build-up is a complex network, and I don't want to go into that, but I'll allude to that. And if you look at most of the building stocks, just what is happening, an overview as of the 2014 documentation, most of the building stocks, the development, the new builds are in China. Most of the new builds are in China. Construction activities are massively developing in China. In those days when I could travel to China, every year when I return, I see different buildings coming up, different developments, more improvement, more infrastructure every single year when I was back to China to visit and do some work. So this is not just a myth. This is developing. This is not concept. This is practical. Building stocks are increasing. Cities are developing. Urbanization is becoming predominantly what everybody wants to be involved with. But with urbanization, we appreciate the fact that the population are living in that zone. The infrastructure becomes significantly important. Our social ability, entity, our social norms become key. Infrastructure to dine, infrastructure to go to casual places, infrastructure to relax becomes key. But it's also all dependent on the economic state of things, and I dare say the political effect and infrastructure policies that have been put in place. So urbanization is key. Urbanization cannot exist without sustainability measures. So when you look at the concept of building and integration as a built environment and integration, I've just taken buildings. I've left the transport and the other aspects for other colleagues. But when you look at buildings, the combination of buildings becomes that community. And the combination of communities, local communities, eventually becomes the city that we thrive in. Now that evolution across here involves the skill of development. From the building element, you have to understand the sustainable measures within the building component, the sustainable measures within the community, the sustainable measures within the cities, and that gives you the skill that you are looking at. And with all these, infrastructure becomes key. You cannot do away with energy. You cannot do away with water. You cannot do away with other resources. But those are the sectors that allows the skill of concepts to function. So again, we'll come back to the skills. Now, as urbanization increases, no doubt, we are using more energy, less and less trees, less and less greening to sequester other elements, and therefore the carbon content of the atmosphere is gradually increasing. And with that, I don't want to go into meteorology, but with that, the ozone layer is depleting. With the depletion of the ozone layer, more sun rays are coming through. And I dare say that's what is contributing to the current heat waves, the rise in temperature gradually over the years. And you can see the steep rise in temperature from the beginning, even from the 1960s thereabout. You can see a steep rise in temperature over the past 30, 40, 50 years, or 60 years. And eventually, we are not saying we should not urbanize, we are not saying we should not develop, but in all of us wanting to be in that skill, the buildings, the community, and the cities, we also have to find a way of enjoying those facilities, but sustaining it for resilience for future, I'm sure most of you have heard of this concept and definition, development for today that meets what future practices are. And that's the basis, the foundation of sustainability in almost all circles. What we do today, how does it grow the future? How is it sustained for the future? How is it used for the future? Or do we even have it for the future? And these are the thinking apps that we have to have on. So on the basis of this, so many other elements sprang up, and then policies came up. sustainable development evolved from the Brundtland policy and agreement. And you look at it, and from just that development that meets the needs present, not compromising the future, from just this and other aspects, the society became key. The economical state of countries, cities became key, the environment became key, and the processes involved. In all this is about trying to conserve societal norms, trying to conserve the economy so that the economy grows as population grows. Try to conserve the environment so that the environmental state of our cities grow as well. But this concept was not policy enough, was not strong enough to create the necessary policies. So other things had to be looked at, other aspects have to be looked at. And when you look at even this argument, it only deals with 3 elements, which is the founding block of sustainability, but I'll introduce you to 2 other elements without which sustainability and resilience will not happen. Okay, so we all know the triple bottom line where sustainability has evolved in so many ways, but it talks about the society, it talks about the economy, it talks about the environment. And all these frameworks, regardless of how you look at it, and I'll show you a few. So when you look at the other aspect of sustainable development, the society, environment, society, the economy, when you look at this as well, it's the social, the economic, the environment. And then within it all, the economy sits in the middle, then it's the social, and then the environment encompasses that. Whichever way you look at it, it only has 3 key elements. But this is where modern research, including research I did with one of my students, realized that these 3 are not enough to sustain sustainability, are not enough to sustain resilience, are not enough to ensure that we don't compromise the future. Because regardless, we need 2 more to complete this element of the framework. And those 2 are these. So we cannot just do with the social, we cannot just do with the environment, the economy. We need the policies around it. We need the energy that comes into it. And with the policies, the economy is encompassed within that. When you look at it, the holistic element that most people and most of us are now talking about is that we have to have the social, we have to have the technological, we have to have the environment, which encompasses the economy, the policies, which encompasses the economy. And honestly, we cannot do any of these without energy. So you cannot leave energy out of sustainability or sustainable development. Fundamentally, we cannot leave energy out of resilience. Every city that thrives on being resilient revolves around energy use. So the holistic element of sustainability, right from the 87 note, was missing these 2 elements, and these 2 elements are key. So we'll introduce these every now and then. Most of the theories that were coined were around the social, the economy, and then the environment. So why at all do we measure sustainability? And it might be that most of you know it already. And if you do, I'm sorry to bore you, but we measure it because we want to understand the outcomes, we want to understand the impact, we want to know how energy use is impacting on this. We want to know the outcome of energy use, and one of which is carbon emissions. Less energy prices in our living, our daily economic life. So you cannot take the economy out of it. Less energy, the outcome, our social norms change. So the outcomes, we want to understand the outcomes that these sustainable parameters bring to us. We want to be able to compare the likelihood that these outcomes will impact X, Y, Z, the projects that we develop. You cannot have technology or the BIMs or the solars or the wind farms without energy. It's not going to work. You cannot have technology without the policies. The policies will have to drive the technology. You cannot just go and build in a built-up area in Beijing. You need the society to be involved. So you look at it, and every aspect of STEEP, every aspect of the bottom line, the TBL, has to go hand in hand to ensure that sustainability is achieved, and hence resilience of cities, resilience of communities, resilience of cities is also a thing. And we have to monitor these. We have to continue to monitor. We have to continue to learn. We have to continue to understand how a change in energy use is impacting us now and how it's going to impact us going forward. And if we don't do that and we stop in our research concepts, then there'll be less information going forward to inform that aspect of the Brundtland note, not compromising the future. Research has to continue. So we have to continue to monitor. We have to continue to assess progress. Resilient cities, evolution of cities. We started by thinking a city is just a small network of boxes, the black box. We didn't really want to understand what cities were made of. And that we are talking about the 1960s, the 1970s, and even earlier. But with the energy crisis gripping the world in the 1970s, cities began to evolve. The cities started thinking, the people started thinking, what do we do to conserve? What do we do to progress? So the knowledge in cities started growing. It was no longer a system, but it was no longer a black box. It became a network of black boxes. And as you added one unit to the next unit to the next unit, you realize that all of a sudden, you have to understand one better before you link to the other, So this network, this growth, this challenge is what we have today, where cities are very complex. You cannot have the technology without having the policies. You cannot have the policies without having governing financial implications, the economy kicking in. You cannot have that without the people, the occupants, the society, how the infrastructure is used. You cannot have that. Our colleague who presented before me talked about the roads. You cannot have cities without network, without roads. When I came to China and visited Beijing, and even from Chongqing to Chengdu, sat in a train, and it was literally as if you're not moving, but then it was one of the fastest trains. The infrastructure system, and that plays a significant part. But in all this, we have to be smart about things, and the future now, the century we are in now appreciates the fact that cities are now complex. They are complex units. So how do we move energy from one section to the other without taking too much of it? But if they don't need it, then we move it and move it and move it. How do we conserve energy? How do we ensure that the economy grows? It's so complex that the cities have to be smarter. But before the cities will be smarter, the communities have to be smarter. Before the communities have to be smarter, the black boxes, the buildings, the entities that forms the communities have to be smarter. So there's that dynamic, that economy of scale, that growth of scale is key in our thinking. And that is one of the aspects that cities are evolving to. So sustainability in this concept is very, very key. So the scale we are talking about, we need to understand this. We need to be spatially aware. How big is it? And I've talked about most of it. Is it just for the short term? Is it for the long term? Is it that which we are looking for the future? So you have to have a plan in place. When you're developing a setup, when you're developing a unit, you have to have a plan in place. How long that's going to be? What are the organizations involved? Do I have the governments in backing? Do I have industry backing? Are they individual based? We have to have a holistic plan about what we do. Because if you don't understand the context in which it sits in, then you cannot plan. So the skill of sustainability revolves around the context. The context in Beijing is very different from the context in London. The context in Xi'an, for instance, is very different from the context in Reading, if I can compare. for the context in Sydney. So understanding the context is very key. You cannot marry two contexts because they are not the same. Talking at the built environment scale, you cannot do without buildings, you cannot do without water, you cannot do without the community. So it goes back to those fundamentals, the structure, the black box, the communities, and then the scale of the city. You cannot do away with it. But greening starts from the foundation. It starts from the building. Then if individual buildings are green, individual buildings are sustainable, then the community becomes, then the city becomes. But the process in all this starts with construction. We cannot do away with construction. So those within the construction industry, those within the built environment have to understand the essence of sustainability. We cannot and should not brush it off because we are the ones building structures today to potentially withstand 60 years, to potentially withstand what happens in the coming years. And I'll give you illustrations from previous years, the 1920s. This was observed almost everywhere because chimneys, coal to generate energy. Moving on to future times, we are not looking at pollution in that sense any longer. We are rather looking at pollution in the sense of materials that we use, and pollution in the terms of our vehicles, our movement. Now, most people are going to electric vehicles because of the environment being polluted, because we want to conserve the ozone layer, the depletion, the climate change. We want to protect that. We want to make sure that the materials we use, not just plastics, I've just shown plastics, but the material we use are recyclable so that we are not just destroying the environment by putting this into the earth or whatever, and then it's not going to decompose. So the context is key. Importance of the context, you have to understand why you are doing it. The priorities are there. If it's UK, what is the priority? Is it important to look at water over lighting, or is it important to generate legislation first? What are the priorities? The priorities have to be set. There should be an initiative, there should be a guidance, there should be a motivation, there should be leadership in all this. Without leadership, that will not fly. And in all this, we cannot compromise what happens in the future, so we cannot avoid precision. We have to be precise to the word precise so that what we do now will be sustained for the future. So the degree of precision is key in our measurements. And other points are here. It's a broad scale. I don't think I can give you, but you look at buildings, the building informs the cities, the firms inform the industry. The contextual aspect is key in developing the prioritization. What happens in Melbourne is very different from what happens in New York. And even Melbourne may be so close to Japan, but it's very different. And contextualizing this is. So looking at these assessments in the frame, taking the triple baseline and see there are key elements that may feature, but this is so complex. It's not just these are broad. When you look at greenhouse gas emissions, okay. Greenhouse gas emissions may impact on the environment, but it comes from buildings, the energy we use, the materials, the composition, etc. So it's not just a wording, but the structure itself is complex, and we want to break it down a bit. By breaking it down as well, we have a complex web like this where everything is key. Infrastructure and safety on point 6, if I can find mine. Infrastructure and safety here cannot happen if you don't have public effects or even communication. You don't have governance. Cannot happen. So one depends on the other. It's a complex web. Sustainability is a complex web that you cannot overlook one because it impacts on the other. So to measure all these, or to try and attempt to measure, you have to have different criteria to measure different things. And the key goes back to the context. What is the criteria? What are you looking at? What are you looking at? Is it water usage? Okay, if it's water usage, do I want clean water? Do I want the clean water to be for a gallon? The measurement of scale. If it's a building, do I want energy conservation? Okay, so if I conserve energy, do I do that against the comfort of personnel? Prioritization kicks in. If it's the community and growth, do I want infrastructure but forgetting about the society? The skill is very key. But in all this, is relative to the person's demand, and therefore weightings have to be put in place. We cannot have all of them to be the same. Weightings have to be put in place. If you look at it in a more detailed, then if you want to look at the weightings, then the sustainability measures kick in. And you look at the environment, the society, the economy, but breaking it down, the environment includes transport. The economy, you have to go to work. Transport comes in. Our social life, infrastructure. So everything is still income. But going back to the transportation of materials or the use of materials, life cycle analysis kicks in. The beginning to the end, how we developing and producing and how we actually decomposing, recycling, use again. And these are key measures that we look at. So the methods that we want to put in place, we've looked at the skill there, but the methods that we want to put in place are key to the environment, the life cycle, and then the sustainability aspect as well. We wouldn't look too much into the life cycle, but we'll look at a bit of environmental assessment generally, and then we'll dwell on sustainability ratings and then move it on. So within the environmental methods, you have what we have, the environmental impact assessment, started from US, but now all of us are using it. The parameters that have to be looked at on the local scale, on the community scale, and others. But aside the environmental impact assessment, you have the strategic. So within an environment, but what happens up there? Is there anything more important, in quotes, than what happens local, and does that affect it? Or does the local drive it? Someone will say bottom up or top down, whichever way. You're not going to look at the ecological footprint, but remember, you cannot do away with the birds. You cannot do away with the bees. You cannot do away with biodiversity. We cannot. We need all these for our environment to thrive. Now with EIA, the country, the judicial setup impacts on what we do. So the principles, the policies of the country is key with the environmental assessment. It could be a large scale, it could be a small scale, but that is always governed by the country of that assessment. When we look at the environmental to the strategic to the what is happening within, then you can see that typically evaluations for the strategic is based on the region, the municipal, and then local to the suburbs and so on. It could be quantifiable, or it could be quantifiable and qualitative as well. But the general results should be such that the local aspect is not deprived of what is supposed to get environmental wise. So these assessment tools have to be used in that context. When you look at the sustainability rating, then you have to look at it from the black box, the building side of it, to the communities before we go to the cities. You cannot jump to the cities without looking at the building side of it. When you look at the building side of it, it should be focused to the energy use, it should focus to the materials of the building, it should focus to the cost, affordability, the essence of community should come in. It is only then that it goes into a community, and the building goes into a community, and those communities form the localities, the suburbs, and then urbanization keeps going. So there should be key planning elements in there. The climate informs that the appropriate sites that we have to develop this. How efficient is our system? How usable is that building? How usable is that thing that we are planning? Is it healthy? Are we going to thermally impact ourselves? And my colleague was asking, UK, do we have air conditions? No, it's a struggle when it's hot. And then in China, we have the air conditions, but then the environmental unit, the microclimate around the the buildings become hotter, a trade-off there. So there's so many challenges that we have to deal about. But it has to be adaptable, and key, it has to be resilient, because that is where we are driving to. It has to be usable, it has to be affordable. Why sustainability? Why the green? Why the building? This is key. The outline of it is that it all started years ago, where people started thinking about the early 90s, and especially after the world energy crisis in the 70s, people started thinking about how do we actually quantify, measure sustainable measures. And it started with BREEAM. Then BREEAM started in UK, evolved into other tools, and I'll come to other tools. All these tools have the essence, the skill, the context, the criteria, the priority, the efficiency, those aspects that we've dealt with, the climatic effect kicks in. So there are quantifiable factors that are measured by these assessment tools. And some of it in BREEAM is the land use, the energy, and so on and so forth. So how it works, and I've just picked on this, how it works, 10 categories: energy, health, well-being, waste, pollution, etc. And that's what is considered to be the main crust of the assessment for the structure, the building, the black box, the community, and so on and so forth. So if you can have that in there, you have the ecological aspect, the biodiversity. And if you can have that, then you have a sustainability weighting that makes you consider that you are doing the right thing. So you have the good, the very good, the outstanding, and I'll just pull up a skill where when you have the slides, by all means, look at it. Depending on what has been given, you arrive at a BREEAM score of this, and that is very good according to the skill. But these are things that starts from the life cycle, from the production, the transport coming in, how you manage your transport, all the way to completion, all the way to use, and so on and so forth. So it's a cycle that continues. Not only UK, but almost all countries have become conversant with this and are using this, and this is just a list and other aspects will come. But when you compare BREEAM, then LEED came from BREEAM. When you compare, it has its variations, and like everything else, the criteria will change depending on the country that you find yourself in. And this is key, because you cannot just take LEED in the States and pop it into Australia. Neither can you just take the functions and then impact it into China. It doesn't work. You have to understand your context to develop the measures, the factors, the skill of the context, and to appreciate that sustainability, that resilience within your country. And again, a summary here. So expanding the ratings, if you look at it in 2003, the picture is hazy, bear with me, I couldn't get any clearer picture, but 2003, there was not a huge uptake all over the world of quantifying, assessing, having these factors. And 2013 is just evolved. Almost everywhere we now have these assessment tools, and it's good because we are looking at resilience. We are projecting to the future. And if we look at it now, there will be more and more countries having their own assessment tools. If you look at it from another perspective, then these are the key players around the world. And for instance, BREEAM informed LEED. LEED has informed several countries. The China GBL has informed several other countries. That in Japan has informed and other countries, and so on and so forth. So you can see the Green Star, Australia, South Africa, New Zealand, and they are in clusters, and they keep informing other countries as well. And that's the best way for us to achieve the sustainability factors and measures that we want to quantify, and hence going back to resilience. Other parameters here, I would leave you to look at when you see the slides. But when you look at the factors in terms of the zones, the communities, and you bring that into an urban scale, a city scale, it's not changed much. The policies are still there. The design and planning is key because the design and planning has to be contextualized to the locality. You have to understand the locality. Remember, we talked about the outcome, assessing, monitoring. Urban scale, it doesn't change. It's there as well. You have to manage it. You have to monitor it. How is that going to evolve? You have to think about that. The indicators of the urban scale has to also think about that. So it's not just about the buildings. It's not just about the communities, the cities, and how that evolve. All those parameters are fundamental to where we go going forward. A small framework of how this can be achieved, the diagnosis, trying to understand the concept, trying to understand what is in there, defining it, planning, all those elements that we put previously. Of course, we need our economy, we need the finances, we need policies to kick in, but it shouldn't stop there. When it's done, it shouldn't stop there. We have to continue monitoring, understanding. Research has to continue so that the future information will be out there even before we know it. Other elements of urban scale, yes, we've talked about affordability on the building scale, the affordability there as well. As the buildings become resilient, you have to make sure that the entire community, the entire urban scale is resilient as well. We cannot have buildings being resilient and then nothing happens when it goes into the community and city. So it's an integral, a growth purposely designed to ensure that that bit is ring-fenced, and then if that is strong enough, resilient for the future, the next bit is resilient, the next bit, and then before we know it, the entire world is resilient. And another key element here, which looks at the different international policies that govern resilience, that governs urbanization, that governs sustainability, and so on. Again, with the urban scale, and I'm going to finish shortly, with the urban scale, we have to look at the habitats. If the habitats are mainly based on one understanding, I don't want to use ethnic background, but in quotes, ethnic background, then you have to understand that habitat and provide for that habitat, provide for that background. Don't bring in something that they will not find useful, or don't take out something that they will find useful. Try and understand that habitat and try and evolve that. Cities will have to continue to be green. Energy use is becoming key. And we need to find a way of conserving energy. I don't know what fuel prices are going to be by December. I don't know what fuel prices are going to be next year. And then our energy prices are going to drive up and up and up. Cities have to appreciate the fact that understanding the factors that inform it is very key, the water usage and so on and so forth. Based on that aspect, UN has several components where you can look at the 11 goals of sustainable development and try and have cities aligning to it. But again, the context is the productivity, the infrastructure, the quality of life, the well-being. Well-being is something that has kicked on a lot because of the way we are working, the setups we are working in. Our well-being is key. We cannot build infrastructure without the well-being. By now, this governance is still there. Policies, leadership is still key in all this. A breakdown of what I've said, the productivity, a breakdown of it, infrastructure, a breakdown of it, and another breakdown of other elements as well. So further breakdown to the other breakdowns. And based on research, you can see that it goes all the way down to the minute, the individual, the people. Everything revolves around us, human beings. Without us, society, economy, technology, energy, policies will not thrive. So all the breakdowns go back to the habitats, the people actually living in it. Another framework is from Siemens, and they look at the green city, and they want to capture transport, they want to capture infrastructure, they want to capture greening, they want to capture water bodies, ecosystems, diversity, and diversity in other aspects. And they want to capture so many elements that ensures that what we do is going to help for the future. We can only try, we can only continue, we can only reduce the amount of vehicles out there, etc., etc. And that is what they capture by the index in there. Yes, Euro, but it's used by the world as well. And you can see everything is driven by one element, the buildings, and then everything revolves. So back to resilience, we started from here. We started from here and we'll end here. We cannot do anything without sustainability. Resilient cities will not exist without identifying that the criteria is important, the context is important, the climate. It will not happen without these. We need sustainable measures to be a solid foundation. But sustainable measures is not just the trade, it's not just the economy, it's not just the society, it's not just the environment. It's also about the policies, and it's also about the energy. Without energy, none of the others actually exist. But even energy, without policies, energy is not. Without policies, economy is not. Without money, policies do not exist. So they are all interlinked, and we cannot take one out of the other. So the concept of the three bottom line and pillars has evolved into 5, and we have to look at them. It's complex. Resilience is complex, but we have to start and we have to continue. We cannot say because it's complex, we are not evolving it. Just like the network of those buildings there that we do not see what is happening. We have to start from the first building block, build on it, and it becomes that, and we evolve from there. I'll leave this for us to look at. But whilst I round up, I just want to say that when you look at these different elements, they are very different, but they are all fruits. But the fact is, you cannot take that apple and assume it's a tangerine. You cannot take the tangerine and assume it's a banana. You cannot take the lime and assume it's lemon. The context is very, very important. And even when you look at the apples, there are different shades. So you cannot assume that because it's happening in China, it has to happen in UK, it has to happen in here. Because it's happening in UK, it has to happen there. No, the context is key. Sustainability all revolves around the context. The skill. There's a darker apple color to a lighter apple color. The skill of sustainability, the skill of the factors is very important. What happens next is all about. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thank you, Professor Emmanuel. And I think your presentation is quite interesting from an engineer's perspective, from an engineer background. And I think it's very informative because you just introduced a lot of indicators, right? And it's a very good presentation with the fruits, because surely as a researcher, I come upon with many indicators, but as you said, it's very important to understand the context. And I think most of our participants, students of this summer school are coming from the background of a more engineering side. And I think this lecture is very important for these students to understand where the technology should be applied to. And maybe some indicators could be quantifiable, but some, you must understand this whole structure, the framework, the context, then the technology could be used in a proper way. And very good presentation, sir. So I saw there's a question proposed, but I won't spell his name. It's really, really long for me. I think you can check the Q&A section.
Okay, let me see if I can find it.
I can also read it to you.
Heat wave magnitude,
yeah,
projections of feature based on past records. And Okay, so heat wave magnitude index. I can only think of the one that was projected by the Middle East and Africa. To be honest, these projections are based on several assumptions, and the several assumptions will only be based on previous data set and how the climate has changed, and therefore there's a prediction. And if you look back on that, when let me see if I can pull that up again. Okay, I'll share this again and then try and answer that question. But if when you look at this, you could see that there are several scattered, or as researchers would say, there are several noise as researchers would say, there are several noise in the background due to the data sets that.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I think you haven't shared your screen yet.
Okay, sorry. Let me share it now again and see if it's okay. Is it shared now?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So you could see that there's several noise in the background as researchers will put it. So the projection always has assumptions and errors. We are not saying that we'll follow this trend. The index might change, and this is just one region. It's not the other regions. And as I said during the lecture, it's contextualized. This region may have this effect because predominantly that's where the Sahara Desert is sitting. So the effect looks very steep. It might be different from other places, south of India, south Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Japan, with the typhoons, the hurricanes down the America that way. So the heat waves may be different, but with all these, there are errors, there are limitations. Predictions are only based on results that we see. So that I can only talk about what the index gives us, and I believe the magnitude that it presents, the trajectory or the trend is right, but whether the values are accurate is subject to the assumptions that is there. Is this for the global scale? No, this is not for the global scale. This is for the region of the Middle East and North Africa. And it takes me back to what I said about resilient cities and communities. It has to be contextualized. You cannot, the climate in America, the climate in America is way different from the climate in Beijing. Even Beijing is very different from Chongqing, when I visit there a lot. So different. So even within a country of China, 4, 5, 6 climatic zones cannot be compared. So no, not a global scale. This is just contextualized to the Middle East and where the Sahara Desert is sitting.
Yeah. So any other questions? Yeah. Yeah, I also read some paper regarding the projection of the living conditions, actually, and also some studies on water reserves or groundwater reserves. And I think the academic field could be a really bleak field of understanding the future, because most of the I think the middle part and the northeast part of the China could be facing a serious shortage of water reserve, and the heat wave also a big problem. So I think even though the figure you showed is not for global scale, but I think it's a global problem. Nevertheless, yeah.
No, Prof, you are right. UK is facing water shortage, so we are being asked to use less water. So it's happening.
Yeah.
Can I just ask one question? Yes, thank you, Emmanuel, for your presentation. It's very interesting. I enjoyed it. Yeah, I just remember I mean, from your presentation, I just remember the event happened last year in China, Zhengzhou, Henan province. Actually, it was because of the climate change. There are a lot of extreme weathers in different locations, and it was 21st July 2021 last year. So there were a huge rain in Zhengzhou, and it just I think it rained like 2,000 millimeters in like 1 hour. It's just huge. It's too much, and the city wasn't ready for this kind of rain. I think no city were ready, but it's definitely part of resilience actually. And because of lack of experience, a lot of people died. I think there are like 380 people died in that event. It was such a big event in China, and there were special investigations for this, why so many people died because of this. I think there's one. The main conclusion was that, firstly, the heavy rain was just too much. No city can just take it. So that's the first one, main conclusion. The other one was that the government and the people could be better prepared for this kind of seas. So I think that's a very important part of being, city resilience, actually. It's definitely related to what you said about policy and politics, a social side from the urban scale. So that's a very good example, actually, because I noticed there's some audience just said that the specific in our, chatting bar, I think, like specific issues and need specific isolations, actually. So that's very good connection, actually. So I just want to say, thank you, very good presentation, Emmanuel.
No, thank you. And I'm supposed to call you Dr. Quinn in these meetings. I'm sorry, I keep saying baby. I apologize.
It's okay. It's okay.
So what you are saying is true, and you and Stuart are the champions of it. You guys are the champions and the policy. You guys look into these. As Professor Ding said, I'm looking at the technology side of it, and it's good to hear from the policy side of things as well. And I'm hoping I can do more work with colleagues in VUC and develop it from there. And please, anyone who wants to communicate, just drop me a line and definitely let's chat. If you want to get my WeChat, and that's easier as well, then ask Dr. Quinn and let's take it there. But we are here to support each other because the future is us. It's all of us. It's not just me, it's not just Dr. Quinn, it's not Professor Ding, it's just all of us. So we are here to help.
Yes.
I can't wait to visit China again and do workshops to improve this for all of us.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. One last thing, Emmanuel. Would you like to share your PPT with the students?
I'll send it to. There was an email that came around.
Yeah.
Do you want the PPT or the PDF? Do you want
PDF will be fine.
Okay,
PDF
so I'll send it right after this, bro.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
You too. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice evening and bye.
Okay, class. Let's meet again around. I think so. I don't know the hour for each place. So 8 o'clock, Beijing time. So thank you, everybody.